Hi there. If this is your first time here, welcome to the Parenthood and Relationship Podcast. I'm your host, Markella Kaplani, a psychologist, a parenthood and relationship coach, and a parent myself. Together, we explore the transformative journey of parenthood and its profound impact on our relationship with ourselves, our partners, and our children, so that we can be present and show up as we envision without having to do more. Let's get into today's episode. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of the Parenthood and Relationship Podcast. I'm so glad you're here with me today, and I have a feeling that this episode is going to hit home for a lot of you, whether you're a mom yourself or someone who loves and supports one. Today, I want to talk about the difference between true, meaningful support and those well-meaning but ultimately harmful expectations that are placed on moms. We'll explore why we do this, how our own past experiences and traumas feed into it, and most importantly, how we can shift toward offering the kind of support that truly helps and heals, and that breaks those old harmful cycles and patterns. So grab a cup of tea, or if you're like me, that slightly cold coffee you've been reheating all morning, and let's get into it. So let's talk about the idea of quote unquote support that sometimes isn't really support at all. You know what I mean? The kind of help that comes with strings attached, or those subtle little jabs that are hidden in what seems like well-meaning advice. We live in a world where moms are bombarded by expectations from every direction. And I'm not talking about just the obvious stuff, like the pressure to do it all. I mean the more sneaky, under the radar kind of pressure. The one that shows up when we say something like, "Oh, you're still breastfeeding? Wow, good for you. But isn't it exhausting?" Or, "You're going back to work? I guess I'm lucky that I can stay at home with my kids." Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Those little comments that sound like they're supportive, but you walk away from them feeling like maybe you're not doing enough, or worse, that you're doing something that's ultimately wrong for your child. And the crazy part, most of the time, people aren't even aware that they're doing this. They truly believe that they're being helpful. But underneath it all, there's this hidden layer of expectation, this subtle push for moms to conform to what society has decided is the right way to mother. Where do these expectations even come from? Well, let's face it, society's got a bit of a control freak problem when it comes to moms. There's this unspoken rule book that says you need to be nurturing, but not too nurturing, independent, but not too independent, working, but not working too much. And make sure that while you're at it, you enjoy every second of it too. It's like trying to follow a recipe with ingredients that constantly change, but somehow you're supposed to bake the perfect cake anyway. The thing is, these societal expectations get passed down from generation to generation, and most of us don't even question them. We're like, I guess this is just how it's done. We've been trained to believe that there's a right way to mother, to be a mom. And if we're not measuring up to that, we feel guilt and shame. And let me tell you, those feelings, the guilt and the shame, are like emotional quicksand. Once you step in, it's very hard to pull yourself out. But here's the kicker. A lot of the time, when someone offers this kind of support, it's more about them and their comfort zone than it is about you and yours. It's about them reinforcing what they think is right, what makes them feel better about their choices. Because if you do something differently, whether it's how you parent or how you balance work and life, or how you prioritize yourself, it challenges the narrative that they've bought into. It challenges all the stuff that they've done that maybe they didn't necessarily feel very good about. And now you are triggering or re-triggering that doubt or that pain they felt when they let go of certain things that maybe they didn't necessarily need to let go of. Let's be real. Nobody likes having their worldview shaken. On a subconscious level, they're basically just saying, I suffered this, so you have to as well. Welcome to the club. Which, let's be honest, is a club that nobody signed up for. But here's the thing, and this is where we need to be gentle with ourselves and with others. Most of the time, this is happening because they were also on the receiving end of all those pressures, and they succumbed. It's not malicious. It's not even fully conscious. And it's this cycle that keeps on going, passed from one mom to the next, generation after generation, that pressures us all. So what do we do? What can we do? How do we recognize when someone's support, quote unquote, is really just societal expectations in disguise? And more importantly, how do we stop ourselves from accidentally doing the same thing to other moms? It starts with awareness. Awareness of those tiny, sneaky moments when we feel judged or when we catch ourselves judging others. It's about noticing the internal voice that says, wait, is this really what I want? Or am I doing it because I've been told this is what I should want? And when we catch that, that is the first step in breaking the cycle. It doesn't mean we have to confront every person who gives us unsolicited advice, although, sometimes a gentle boundary can work wonders. But what it really means is that we don't let those expectations that are thrown at us take root inside of us. That is where we have the power. We stop them in their tracks and we say, nope, that's not for me. That doesn't belong to me. You get to Marie Kondo that stuff. If it doesn't spark joy, out it goes. Okay, so now that we've talked about these sneaky societal expectations that get passed off as support, let's go a layer deeper. Because here's the truth. Sometimes the reason people are pushing those expectations on moms has nothing to do with the mom that they are helping and everything to do with their own unresolved issues. Yep, we're going there today. Think about it. How often do we pass down advice, not because it's what the other person needs, but it's because it somehow validates our own experience? It's like, hey, I made these sacrifices, and if I can do it, so can you. I know it's very hard to realize this about ourselves, and it takes effort to step outside of ourselves and just observe how it is that we offer advice and suggestions. But a lot of times people get quite fanatic, quite pushy about what it is that they are suggesting, and this in itself is a sign. Why do I need you to heed my advice? Why do I need you to validate that my suggestion is good by you going ahead with it? Maybe deep down, we're looking for confirmation that the hardships that we went through were, worth it. That our suffering meant something. I mean, it's a little twisted when you think about it, like we're in this bizarre misery loves company club. Except nobody is really happy to be in it, and we're all too exhausted to figure out how to cancel our membership. But here is where it gets real. When we haven't fully processed our own pain, we have this subconscious need to make sure others experience that same pain. Because if they do, it makes our struggles feel more normal, more worth it. It makes them feel justified. Like, see, this is just how it is. This is how motherhood should be. If I had to go through it, it wasn't in vain. And it's not like there could have been an easier path that I didn't follow, right? This is where trauma comes into play. And I know the word trauma sounds like a very big and heavy word, but it's not always about these huge life-altering events. Trauma can be subtle. It can be that constant pressure to be the perfect mom, that loss of identity, the feeling that no matter what you do, you're somehow falling short. Over time, that builds up. And when we don't work through it, we end up projecting it onto others, especially others like us, other moms. Think about it. If we never got the chance to question other societal pressures ourselves, then of course we're going to pass them on. We hand down what we've been given, what we've been taught, what we've experienced, and what we've done. And this doesn't just happen between generations. It happens peer to peer, one mom to another. It's this endless loop of, this is how I did it, so it must be the way. But let me switch roles just a bit. Those of us who are doing the projecting, we're not bad people. We're not doing it because we want to hurt other moms. We're doing it because on some level, we're trying to heal ourselves. We're seeking validation that our experiences were okay, that we made the right choices, even if those choices were made under a lot of weight of expectation, of guilt, and of fear. And on a very conscious level, we are thinking that we are actually being very helpful to our friend that we're passing this information to. And this is where we need to pause and get real with ourselves. When we find ourselves offering unsolicited advice or pushing our beliefs about motherhood onto someone else, we have to ask, am I really offering this because she needs it? Or am I saying it because I need to feel right? I need to feel validated. I need to know that she will follow my footsteps so that it can deem my path the correct one, the right one, the righteous one. Listen, we've all been there. We've all been the mom who thought, I know best because I've been through this. And sometimes we do know best, but sometimes we're just working through our own stuff. But there's good news here. Once we start recognizing that our desire to push certain ideals or advice onto others is often about us and not them, we can begin to break the cycle. And this is huge. It means we don't have to keep carrying the weight of our past or passing it on to others. We can just let go. I know, easier said than done, right? But this is where self-awareness comes in. The moment we start noticing those patterns in ourselves, those times that we feel that urge to say, this is how I did it, so this is how you should do it. Or, well, maybe we don't say it as imperatively, but the imperative is masked with, this is best, and I'm offering it in case you want to try. At that moment, we can pause. We can check with ourselves and ask, what's really going on here? I'm not doubting that sometimes we're just offering genuine advice and maybe we've been asked to offer it. But it also has to do with insecurity. Maybe it's a feeling of loss, of not having been supported in the way that we needed. Maybe it's guilt or frustration or resentment. Whatever it is, acknowledging this is a step toward healing. Understanding that my desire to help you could potentially be a need for you to follow my lead so that I can validate myself, that is where it all begins. And when we heal ourselves, we stop that cycle. We stop projecting that pain and those unmet needs onto other moms. We start to see them for who they are and what they need, not as mirrors reflecting our own experiences back to us. And here's the really beautiful part. Once we stop projecting our trauma, we create space for real connection, real support. And trust me, that feels a whole lot better than reinforcing societal expectations that were never really ours to begin with. Wouldn't you rather be part of the Support Moms for Real club instead of the Misery Loves Company one? I know I would. But seriously, recognizing these patterns, whether in ourselves or in others, is how we break free. And breaking free is what allows us to show up for other moms in a way that actually helps, rather than by adding to their load. So next time you feel the urge to tell another mom, this is the best way to do it, it's how I did it and it turned out great, take a step back. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? And if it's coming from a place of wanting to be validated and justified, if it's coming from a place that there's this tingling feeling inside me that if she doesn't follow this way, she's wrong or she's rejecting me, then it's okay. It's important that you're kind to yourself, but maybe in that moment, instead of giving advice, you can offer a listening ear and ask her what she needs to hear from you, what she needs in general, what she may want you to do. Offer her that kind of support that you wish you had. That's how we stop the cycle, and that's how we move forward. All right, so we've unpacked a lot, and I think this is the perfect time to talk about what real support looks like. So Maybe you're listening to this and you're realizing, oh my God, have I potentially been pushing my own agenda so that I can feel good about myself and the way that I've done things? Because the truth is, every mom needs support, but that support has to be something that lightens her load, not adds to it. And spoiler alert, real support doesn't always look like advice or problem solving. And we've talked about this when we talked about couples and partners. So moms, if you're hearing this, this is an episode you might want to share with your partners as well. Support does not mean problem solving. It does not necessarily mean finding a solution. It doesn't come with a side of judgment, and it definitely doesn't come with a manual on how to mom the right way. It's not transactional like I suffered, so you have to suffer too. Real support, it's about seeing the mom that's in front of you, not the version of her that you think she should be. It's about meeting her where she's at, and it's about asking her what she needs instead of assuming that you know better because you were there before her. Let me tell you a story that highlights this. I remember speaking with a mom who had just had her third child. Yep, her third. She was exhausted, overwhelmed, and she admitted to me that she felt like she wasn't being enough for anyone. Not for her newborn, not for her older kids, not for her partner, and definitely not for herself. Does this sound at all familiar? What she needed wasn't someone to tell her how to fix it. She didn't need a rundown of my experience or anyone else's, or worse, a reminder of how someone else managed with even more kids or with also working on top of that. Seriously, have you ever noticed how moms love to one-up each other with the struggle stories? Like, oh, you have 3 kids? Try 5. It's like we're in some kind of bizarre motherhood Olympics where suffering is the event of the day. What she needed was someone to say, hey, you're doing great. And it's okay that you feel that you're drowning right now. What can I do to help you? That is real support. It's showing up without judgment, without expectation, and without trying to fix things. It's listening, like really listening. Not that distracted, one eye on the clock kind of listening, but the kind where you're present, where you're giving space for someone to just be. And that is the first piece of real support, presence. I can't tell you how many times moms just want people to see them, to acknowledge their experience without minimizing it or comparing it. Sometimes real support is as simple as sitting beside them, either in person or metaphorically, and saying, I see you, I'm here for you, no matter what this looks like. The second piece, offering help without expectations attached. Let me explain what I mean by that. Often when people offer help, it comes with this invisible checklist, like, I'll help you with the baby, but you should be using that time to get things done. Or, I'll take the kids off your hands for a bit, but shouldn't you be focusing on something productive? Real support means offering help for the sake of giving, not because we expect them to use it in a certain kind of way. Maybe what that mom really needs is to use these precious minutes to take a nap, or to scroll through Instagram, or to stare at the wall. And guess what? That's perfectly okay. It's her time and she gets to decide how to use it. The point is, true support isn't about outcomes. It's about relief. Seriously, if the best thing that she can do with her 30 minutes of peace is just sit in a quiet room and breathe, that's gold. Don't underestimate the power of breathing in silence, my friends. It's magical. Maybe she doesn't want to be at the nail salon or fixing her hair. Maybe she doesn't care to be looking at what project she could tackle now that she has your 30-minute assistance every other day. Maybe she just needs to breathe. The third piece of real support, asking what she needs instead of assuming. This one seems so simple, but it's amazing how often we skip it. We rush in with our own ideas of what will help without pausing to actually ask, what would be most helpful to you right now? And let me tell you, that question can be a game changer. Sometimes the answer will surprise you because you may be thinking, I was in your shoes. I was experiencing the same thing. The feelings you're describing, oh my gosh, I felt them too. But being in that same situation with those same feelings doesn't necessarily mean that you need what I needed back then in order to relieve yourself. You might think she needs a break from the kids, for example, but what she really needs is just someone to talk to. Or maybe she feels icky because she hasn't showered in 2 days and all she wants is 20 minutes to freshen up. And sometimes she won't even know what she needs, and that's totally okay too. Offering the space for her to explore, that in itself is a form of support. And lastly, real support is about trust. Trusting that she knows what's best for her and her family, even if it looks completely different from what you would do and what you did. Because here's the thing, motherhood isn't one size fits all. We tend to think it is, but it isn't. We all have different circumstances, different kids, different relationships, and different internal landscapes, most of all. And when we can offer support from a place of trust, trusting her instincts, trusting her choices, we empower her. We give her permission to follow her own path. And that's what moms need more than anything else. We need permission. Permission to be imperfect. Permission not to have it all together. Permission to do things in a way that works for us, even if it's not how society says it should look like. And how about permission to leave the laundry in a mountain on the floor? Because honestly, who's looking at that anyway? When we can offer that kind of support, the presence, the helping without expectations, and asking what's needed, trusting her path, that's when we stop adding weight to a mother's load. That is when we are actually lightening it. And that's when we break the cycle of unrealistic expectations and instead offer something that truly helps. So next time you're with a mom, whether she's in the thick newborn chaos or navigating the teenage years or that in-between phase, remember, real support doesn't always look like advice or fixing things. It looks like being there, listening, and offering her the freedom to figure out what she needs. That's how we build a better support system for moms, one that is based on compassion rather than expectations. Wow, so we've covered a lot today. We talked about the social expectations that creep into our well-meaning advice, to how our own past experiences and even our unresolved traumas could contribute to us passing down advice and pressures without even realizing. And then we talked about what true support looks like. So now I think the biggest takeaway as we wrap up is this. We've all been shaped by the way things used to be done. We've been handed a blueprint for motherhood that's filled with expectations and pressures and comparisons that, quite frankly, don't serve us anymore. They never really have. But the beauty of it all is that we can rewrite this blueprint. We can decide what support really looks like. And we can offer that to moms around us, whether they're in our families, our friendships, or our communities. So here's my challenge for you. The next time you're about to offer support to a mom, take a breath. Ask yourself, am I doing this because it's what she should do? Am I doing it because I think that I did it and it worked and it's best? Or because it's what she needs? And if you're not sure what she needs, and if you're not sure of potentially subconscious intentions, just ask her. It sounds simple, but trust me, it can make all the difference. Because at the end of the day, we as moms don't need more advice on how to fit into society's mold. We don't need to be told how to juggle all the things or how to be better. What we need is space. Space to figure out our own way. Space to make mistakes, to grow, and to trust ourselves. And when we can offer that to moms, when we can give them that freedom, we're not just supporting them, we're helping them thrive. And listen, if you found yourself offering well-meaning but maybe not so helpful advice in the past, give yourself some grace too. We've all been there. We're all trying to learn how to show up better for people in our lives. What matters is that we keep on learning, we keep evolving, and we keep choosing compassion over expectations for ourselves and for others. Hey, if all else fails, just remember, sometimes the best thing you can do is hand a mom a hot cup of coffee and a hug. Or, maybe just watch her kids for a while as she showers for the first time in 3 days. We have the power to change the way we support each other. And when we do, we break those old, tired cycles that have weighed us down for far too long. We create a new kind of support, one that is rooted in love, empathy, and trust. And that is what moms deserve. All right, my friends, that's all for today's episode. I hope it gave you some insights, maybe even a few aha moments. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, to follow, to review, and to share this episode with someone who could use a little extra support today. And as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to reach out and let me know how this resonated with you. You'll find all my details in the description below. Until next time, be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other, and remember, true support is about being there, not being right. Thanks for tuning in. See you next Sunday.